Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Making an Impact with Zebu Nation. And today I have for you a little bit of a different episode. But before I get into that, I just want to mention that this new MLS save that I'm put together, has gotten a lot of really nice support from the FM community, from MLS fans, from people on Twitter who've been retweeting my videos and saying nice things. People in YouTube on the comments, they've been, giving me little hints and tips and, little nuggets of information that have been very cool and very fun for me to see, and to interact with people on YouTube is always nice. So I just want to say thank you to everybody out there who's watching this series, and I hope you're enjoying it. But one thing people did mention to me is they'd like to see what's going on in the rest of the league, what's the rest of the MLS teams done in the offseason, and the moves they made and coaches they hired and all that kind of stuff. So since last episode I went over my own team, in great detail, I thought I'd go over MLS a little bit this time around and, just give you a little taste of the league. So why don't we do that real quickly? I'll try not to have another hour-long episode. That was a bit much. So here we go. We'll drop back to Major League Soccer and take a look. First off, we got the Supporters Shield table here. Portland Timbers at the top. 2 wins on the young season. Total of +4 goal differential. They're tied with Philadelphia, who's got the same record. 2 wins, 6 points, +4 goal differential. So lots of goals being scored this season. Third place is interesting, although they have 6 points to their name as well, is LAFC. This is their first season in the league, and, they've gotten off to a hot start, so good luck to LAFC. And behind them with 4 points, we got Toronto, Columbus, and Sporting KC, each with 1 win and 1 draw. In fact, Columbus has already played 3 games, and they've got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. So they're probably going to drop down a little bit as some other teams play their games and, overtake them. But that's a nicely balanced top 6. We got 3 teams from the Eastern Conference, 3 teams from the Western Conference. So I guess, at least at the beginning of the season, we got a little bit of balance between the conferences. We got a bunch of teams with 3 points. We got New England, San Jose, Vancouver, New York Red Bulls, LA Galaxy, Atlanta United. But a lot of those teams have only played 1 game so far, so it's hard to tell what their seasons are going to be like. And then down here in 13th place, we have the good old Montreal Impact. Played 2 games already, 1 draw, 1 loss. Now, you saw our draw versus FC Dallas. But now I decided to play 1 game off camera just to sort of keep things rolling, and we lost that game to Sporting KC. It wasn't a terrible game, but it wasn't one that I'm particularly proud of. We'll take a look at the goals here. We only lost 2-1, but it's one of those games that I thought was winnable. It's just they came back on us. Here's our goal. Cabrera from the set piece got the header, and we took an early lead, and it took them until the second half to get one back. And here's just our defense playing too high of a line. Rubio just really sort of, faked out Bush and put one past him pretty easily. And then they scored just 3 minutes later on a foul up by Jackson. He got dispossessed there, and Osvaldo, just an easy cross again to Rubio. So, it was just a bad turnover led to a counterattack, and that's how we lost the game. So I wasn't real happy about that game. We couldn't do much of anything after they scored. They just sort of shut the game down on us, and we couldn't take it back. So we got some work to do. We got some mistakes to clean up, and, we are playing that super attacking style. So I think maybe we need to come up with an away tactic. I know a lot of people like to do that, maybe a little bit more conservative. Put in a defensive midfielder in there instead of a second striker, something like that. Or, some other formation we haven't tried yet. Anyway, we'll think of something. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, we got a nice slate of games this weekend. We're playing Colorado. Kickoff at 1900 hours. DC United's playing Chicago, so that's a good Eastern Conference match. Houston Dynamo versus Orlando City. Orlando City is in last place right now with 0 points, negative 4 goal differential. And Houston is not doing much better, also with 0 points after 2 games and a negative 4 goal differential. So this is for a chance for one of these two teams to get out of the cellar. I know we've got some Houston Dynamo fans out there. Rob Simpson in the comments. He likes to drop that Houston Dynamo knowledge on us. So hopefully Rob will be cheering for the Dynamo this week. Portland, Real Salt Lake. That's another good one in the Western Conference. Toronto FC Dallas. A matchup of what should be one of the top 2 teams in the league, so we'll see if they can keep their roles going. Atlanta Sporting Kansas City, that should be fun. Sounders, Seattle versus LAFC, that's another one at the top. Or is it? Seattle, down here in 21st place. They have not played a single game, so we don't know anything about Seattle. And Rami, their coach, who was supposed to be coaching the Montreal Impact, but instead he had to go over to Seattle and coach the Sounders. So we'll see how he does this year. Keep an eye on him. As for the first week in the league, it was a pretty good week in terms of goals scored for sure. We had Nemeth, Luna, and Adi all with 3 goals. Luna and Adi both play for Portland, so you can see why Portland is 2-0. Got 2 hat tricks on the season. That's pretty good. Adi also sporting a 9.1 rating, tied with Lama, who you saw in our first game. That's where he earned that 9.1 rating, was all those goals versus us. So, with all this Western Conference talent out there, we're kind of lucky we're not out there, but we got problems of our own to deal with in the Eastern Conference, namely David Akam up there in Philadelphia. He's a guy who moved over from Chicago in the offseason, scored a 9.3 rating in his opening match, and he was helped out by his partner here, Ilsinho, the 32-year-old Brazilian winger who gave him a couple of assists there. Got 3 assists on the season, so he's going to be a dangerous setup, man. We got a lot of problems here, a lot of good players. Looks like New England is playing pretty well, as also Yatun with 3 assists to go with Nemeth and his 3 goals. So a lot of good partnerships here in the first week of MLS. Some interesting stuff to note defensively. They got 3 shutouts here by Clint Irwin, who is the LAFC goalkeeper. I assume they picked him up in the expansion draft, but we'll have to look at that later. Also got some yellow cards for LAFC, Belteshaur. So, I mentioned picking somebody up in the draft. Let's take a quick look at transfers. And if you've never come to this screen before, if you're in MLS, come to the league screen, because there's some interesting stuff here. For example, something I never knew until I looked at this screen was you could actually see what the trade values are. Under transfers, there's this estimated trade values list, and it'll tell you what your draft picks are worth. So your first round super draft pick in next year's draft is worth between 1.2 and 650,000, 1.2 million and $650,000 in trade value. So if you're ever wondering, what can you get for one of these draft picks, here's some trade values that you can look at. So for example, you want to trade your 4th round draft pick, might be able to get 75,000 for it. So that's, I don't know if this value is just time-based or if it takes into effect the strength of the drafts. I'm not sure. Because basically the basic premise here is the farther away the draft pick is, the less it's worth. So is that reasonable? I guess that's reasonable. But what if the 2021 draft is supposed to be a particularly good draft? There's a bunch of young guys in college right now who are blowing up, who are expected to be big-time prospects. Maybe that could change the value. I don't know if they would put that much time and effort into this valuation, but you never know. And anyway, it's a handy rule of thumb, and I came up with my own rule of thumb just looking at things empirically a couple of seasons ago, and it came up basically to these numbers. Like basically, a first-round draft pick was worth somewhere near $1 million, and so on and so forth. So these numbers work out pretty well if you're looking to value your draft picks. Anyway, let's get to the transfers, and I've got them sorted here right now just by highest value. So we'll go down the highest value a little bit and then maybe look at the different teams individually. So first of all, the number one value in transfers was actually a transfer out from Atlanta United. They got rid of Joseph Martinez, 24-year-old Venezuelan. They sent him out to Atalanta over there in Serie A in Italy. So, that's an interesting move for Atlanta, clearing up space in that crowded front court of theirs, front line. I guess it's not a front court, that's basketball. But anyway, you know what I mean. They got a lot of wingers, they got a lot of strikers, and they had to get rid of Martinez, and they got pretty good value for him. $6.7 million, maybe $9 million, so they're going to have some cash to spend. And then FC Dallas brought in a guy that we're familiar with here, Nicolas Gonzalez. We felt the impact of this youngster in our first game. He looks pretty good. A lot of talent for a 19-year-old. Not very big and strong, but he's got a lot of other really nice options. So that's just more firepower for FC Dallas. Real Salt Lake brought in Marcelino Moreno, 22-year-old Argentinian, for $3.1 million. He's a winger. He looks pretty good. Very fast. Nice fitness. Decent mentals. Very good technicals. First touch. Really nice. So he's a guy you can just sling it down the sideline to this guy, and he's going to put on a nice first touch and go make a play. Got dribbling. He's got a little bit of crossing. He can play midfield, attacking midfield. So it looks like he's going to give RSL a lot of versatility out there. Earthquakes sold a player. Valery Kashvili. Got rid of him, the attacking midfielder. So, we'll see who they get to replace him, because he was a pretty talented guy for him. Let's see his history here with San Jose. Played one season. They got him on a free. It didn't do much. They sold him almost immediately, it looks like. So they got him in 2017, didn't play him, sold him for $2.9 million. So, hey, that's just a cash deal, I guess, for the Earthquakes. That's pretty good. Turning around, just it's like flipping a house. They're flipping a player. I guess that's okay. Carlos Rivas for the Red Bulls. They sold him off to Atlético Nacional. 23-year-old Colombian. They got $2.4 million for him. He was with Orlando for a couple of seasons. Had a nice season for them last year. 36 games, 20 goals, 5 assists, 7.18 rating. So he was a good player for him. Sold him off and got some cash for him. Atlanta United made another move. Oliveira, left back, 30-year-old Brazilian. So they got all that attacking firepower. They need somebody to play defense and to get the ball to those guys. And it looks like Oliveira is going to be just another great player for him. 30 years old, but he's got a lot of gas in the tank. He's got nice physicals, nice mentals, and pretty nice technicals too, up and down the board. So he's not like an outstanding player, but he's just really solid in all phases. So that should be helpful for them. Then Houston Dynamo. They made a move. $2 million for Martin Benitez. Take a look at Benitez. Attacking midfielder in the central area, although he can play out on the wings too. He's a natural winger on both sides. Also a striker. Also a center midfielder. So he gives them a lot of versatility. Good physicals. Very fast. Very fast. 15 pace, 16 acceleration is pretty good. Nice strength off the ball. So this is a guy he'll be a nice offensive player for these guys. 11 passing, 13 long shots, 15 dribbling. So it looks like Houston's got themselves a playmaker. Let's see what they can do with him. Let's see. We got a couple of more guys in the $1 million range. Domingo Bianco. Is that Bianco? No, that's Blanco. Domingo Blanco goes to DC United, also for $2 million. Basically the same guy. He's attacking center mid. He can play the wings. He can play striker. Can play midfield. Very nice. Not quite as speedy. Pretty good mentals. Pretty good technicals. But that's just another nice South American attacking center mid. I mean, that's the one thing I've noticed about going down to South America. You can get a lot of guys who look just like this. Just very talented attacking midfielders. So if you ever in need of that, I think you should look south of the border. All right. And then, of course, we had the move that we saw in the preseason. Rodrigo goes to NYFC. We know all about this guy. He scored a goal against us. And he got that designated player contract. He's a big guy. Nice and strong, jumping reach, good mentals, good technicals, heading especially. So he's a real aerial expert. So you got to be able to get the ball to this guy in the air and let him score. Or, just have your defense hand him the ball on a silver platter. That also works. All right, so let's take a look from a team point of view. No, not from two. What happened? What happened? All right, get back. Got messed up a little bit. Okay. So Atlanta, they had 3 draft picks. They picked up fullback, and goalkeeper. So Atlanta, focusing on defense in the draft, that's probably pretty good. The super draft is usually pretty solid when it comes to just usable defenders. That's pretty much the most reliable thing you can find in MLS Super Draft, just defensive players. Then we saw they went out and got Oliveira, Anderson Luis, another Brazilian, a complete wingback. So he'll be playing probably on the right side. So it looks like they got their fullbacks really straightened out there. $325,000. So, man, they are paying a lot of money there in Atlanta United. I don't know how they're going to fit all these guys under the budget, but we'll see about that. Then they picked up Carlinhos, another 31-year-old, another Brazilian, $538,000 rotational contract. That's a lot of money for a rotational player. I mean, he's okay. Another complete wingback. How many wingbacks does one team need? I don't know. But or Atlanta's got them all. Then they sent a guy out on loan. All right. Let's see. Chicago, they didn't do much in the offseason. They picked up a couple of draft picks. One of them, Jordan Allen, they probably got from the waiver draft from Real Salt Lake, 22-year-old. Nice physicals on this guy. Another winger. So, he's a prospect, I guess. They picked up one draft pick from the Super Draft, Patrick White, 22-year-old striker. He's pretty decent. Nice finishing, nice composure, nice pace, really good flair, 18 flair. So he could be an interesting player for them. I don't know if they need him or not, but we'll see. Then it looks like they got somebody from Tigres for only $3,000. Omar Salgado. Looks like I got a text I got to answer there. 24-year-old American they brought in. So that's an interesting move. Nice crossing. Pretty decent player, but for only $3,000, giving him a $2,000 rotational contract, that's pretty good. So that's nice value. And then from Huracan, for only $46,000, they got Patricio Taranzo. Another pretty good value. 35 years old, though. Physical's on the decline. So it looks like Chicago went for value rather than making big splash with a lot of money. So I got to pause it here and answer that text. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. Well, we can go down. It looks like there was several thrifty teams this season. Colorado, they went just with draft picks. Although, they got a pretty interesting draft pick. Probably from the waiver draft, they picked up David Villa from NYCFC. So that's actually a pretty big move for Colorado. I mean, David Villa, 36 years old. he's still one of the better players in the league, especially with 18 finishing. I mean, you got a guy with 18 finishing and 20 penalty taking or whatever he's got, probably 18 penalty taking as well. That's a guy who can just score goals for you. I mean, he can't move very fast or very far, but if you just plant him in front of goal and get him the ball, I mean, 9 times out of 10, he's going to score for you. So that could be a big move for Colorado, even though it's basically a free move. But they are paying him a pretty big salary, $4.15 million as a designated player. So, you know, in one respect, they went a little conservative without having to spend a big transfer budget. But on the other hand, they did, you know, dole out the payroll there. $4.1 million is nothing to sneeze at in MLS. So that's pretty good. Then they had, you know, just a couple of super draft picks. Anthony Stewart, right defender, 21 years old, doesn't look too good. Russell Walton, goalkeeper, looks pretty good for a 22-year-old. They're going to have to play him pretty immediately for him to get better, but 15 reflexes, 15 tendency to punch. You know, he looks pretty decent, actually. Nate Murphy, another goalkeeper. Why would you pick 2 goalkeepers in the super draft? Especially when the first one looked pretty good. I don't know. But this guy also looks pretty good. He looks pretty much the same as the other guy. Better jumping reach, better aerial reach. But other than that, I don't know. Whatever. You know, you need a lot of goalkeepers. Who am I to say? Then Columbus had a lot of draft picks as well. They got Caleb Calvert, 21-year-old American. They got him from Colorado in probably the re-entry draft. Decent-looking prospect, homegrown player. 21-year-old winger, nice crossing, nice pace from the super draft. Ryan Davis, 22-year-old goalkeeper. A lot of goalkeepers. 14 handling, 14 reflexes, pretty good. 12 jumping reach, not great, but he's 6'4", that's pretty good. George Miller, 22-year-old winger. So, you know, you can just stock up on a certain position in the super draft. Central defender, he looks okay, I guess. Marking and tackling are okay. Let's see. They had a lot of draft picks, apparently. Steve Parrish, fullback. Nice jumping reach, nice strength. Tackling is okay. So he's an okay, useful guy, I guess. Ben Perez, 22-year-old ball-winning midfielder. A little bit of depth in defense, or a little depth in the midfield. I mean, 15 tackling, 16 teamwork. This guy could be a useful guy. At least, you know, bring him in as sort of a defensive midfielder or ball-winning midfielder, and he can do some damage at least. Then they had one free transfer from Kuwait, Nazmi Al-Badawi. Looks pretty good. Shadow striker on the attack. Not very fast or physical, but very determined. Nice free kick. Nice dribbling. Corners. So sort of a specialty team guys for them. 13 long shots. He could be an interesting addition to their attack in Columbus. Always looking for good attacking players. DC United, they had also kind of a thrifty offseason, but they spent a little bit of money. You know, we saw them pick up Blanco. There's their advanced playmaker. They got Fernando Medeiros, 22-year-old Brazilian regista. Look at that. So a little bit of a midfield help for him. He's a pretty average-looking guy, but not a lot of faults in his game, so he could be helpful for them in the midfield. They got him for merely $140,000. Then from Corinthians, they picked up Luidi, 21-year-old Brazilian, for $425,000. Inside forward, so he's a guy who can add a little bit to their attack. Nice dribbling, pretty good mentals, determination. You know, no weaknesses in his mentals. He's a little bit small, only 5'6", 6 strength, 4 jumping reach, so he's not like a imposing, physically gifted guy, but he's got some nice quickness and pace and fitness. So he can run all day down the left-hand side and give them some options. And then, of course, they had a bunch of draft picks. They got our guy, Marco Donato, 34-year-old Italian. So he's going to help them out in the midfield where maybe he should be helping us out. Physical's on the decline, but he is an anchor man, so he doesn't have to move that far. Very nice mentals. I mean, very good mentals. We should have kept this guy, honestly. But, yeah, he's pretty good. And he's going to help out DC United this season. Also picked up Bruno Mendes, 23-year-old Brazilian striker. Nice physicals. He could help them out. All right, let's see. What other moves are we looking at? FC Dallas, we know what they're all about. We saw their moves. Gonzalez, Groli, Giles Barnes from Lyon. It's a pretty good player. 29-year-old Jamaican. 13 pace, 13 strength, determination. He's another winger. I don't know that they need many more wingers out there in FC Dallas, but whatever. They got a decent deal for him, $125,000. Let's see. I guess those are all the real big moves there. The free transfers, ton of. Oh, there we go. Houston Dynamo. What are they up to? A lot of draft picks. We saw their big move here in Benitez. They also picked up David Murillo, 24-year-old Colombian. He looks okay. Some leadership. Some first touch. Defensive fullback, but looks like he can get forward on the attack too. So he should be a help to them. Then they picked up Iago from Internacional, 20-year-old Brazilian. So they got in on the youth movement here. Another defensive fullback. So they've cleared up their fullback positions here. Nice pace and acceleration. Pretty decent mentals. Crossing, first touch. Marking could use a little bit of work. Heading could use a little bit of work. But he's got 15 tackling, so he can be a tackling machine out there for him. First team player. So it looks like Houston, filled some holes. That's good for them. There's LAFC. Speaking of the drafts. So it looks like... Oh, before that, we got LA Galaxy. They didn't make many moves. They got Jordan Thomas, 22-year-old goalkeeper from the Super Draft. Looks pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. And then Armando Vargas for $210,000 from Junior. 29-year-old Colombian. He looks pretty good. Yeah, he looks pretty good all the way around. Nice long shots for an attacking midfielder. So, some more attacking power for LA Galaxy. Take a look at their transfer history. What did they do last year? Not a lot. So I think they just got helped by the FM18 update. And then they got just a couple of players this season. So we'll see. I'm still a little dubious about Los Angeles, but we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, LAFC, from the expansion draft, it looks like they got Christian Higuita from Orlando. 24-year-old Colombian. Looks pretty good. Midfielder. From the Red Bulls, they picked up Connor Ladd. 28-year-old American. Fullback, he's not what I would take in a fullback, but he's okay, I guess. I don't know. He's very small, very weak, can't jump. Heading, not good. I mean, this guy, he's a wingback at best. I would not play this guy at right fullback if you paid me to do it. So not a great pickup for LA. Jeb Brovsky, 29 years old. Much better defensive fullback. 13 jumping, 12 strength. Tackling. Okay. So they can use him. Then from FC Dallas, they got Mark Pelosi. I don't really like their expansion draft picks, but sometimes in the expansion draft, you got to take guys who you can get. It's a first teamer. I mean, I guess he's okay. Not real happy with that. Clint Irwin from Toronto. That's a pretty good pickup. He's a nice, solid, dependable goalkeeper. 14 one-on-ones, 15 reflexes. So he should help him out. He's already got 2 shutouts on the season, so we know he's doing pretty good. And from the Colorado Rapids, they got Dominique Badji, 25-year-old Senegalese winger. Nice pace. Other than that, he's just kind of average. Let's see, then they got a free transfer. Ben Zemanski, 29 years old. They got some draft picks down here looking okay. All right, I don't know that we're going to take a look at every single team because that would sort of take forever. Minnesota United just had some draft picks. Looks like they picked up Harry Shipp. He must have been waived. Interesting. He's a player who's making some waves in MLS. You know, he's always been a pretty decent player. His physicals are not good at all, but his mentals and technicals are really good for an MLS player, so that's interesting that they would let him go. Got him on a rotational contract. So Minnesota improved themselves a little bit. Got Ryan Mira from the Red Bulls. Irish goalkeeper. Looks pretty solid, so that could help them out. And they got a few draft picks. Their one move seems to be Daniel Laredo from Atlético Nacional. 27-year-old advanced forward. It's again another advanced forward from South America. He's just a really solid guy. He's not necessarily a guy who knocks your socks off, but he's just solid. $62,000 is good value. New England, they didn't do much either. Couple of draft picks and one move from Deportivo. They picked up, oh boy, Yantin Perez, possibly. Fullback, 29 years old. Don't know a ton about him, but he looks usable. Looks pretty good. You know, for only less than 60 grand, that's a pretty good move. The Red Bulls, some free transfers, some draft picks. One move from Sturmgezet, maybe, possibly. Marcus Peterson, 27-year-old Norwegian striker, defensive forward. Interesting character, nice physicals, nice mentals. Off the ball. Not great technicals, but for a defensive forward, he's definitely good enough. Heading, long shots, finishing, penalty taking, that could be helpful. So he's a guy, he could be a disruptive force up there on front. He can also play a little bit in the center midfield, I guess. But that's an interesting move. Okay, let's move on to NYC FC. We saw their big move for Rodrigo, 24-year-old target man. We know all about him. They also went out for $155,000. Got Gonzalo Laborda, goalkeeper, sweeper keeper from Argentina. Interesting looking guy. Eccentricity all over the place here. Not very good reflexes. I mean, that's okay, but maybe sweeper keepers don't need reflexes. I don't really know how sweeper keepers work. Then he went out and got Lars Christopher Vilsvik for $185,000. Norwegian, another wingback. Wingbacks are everywhere. 12 pace, okay, nice crossing in corners possibly. Penalty taking, passing. Pretty decent guy. Nice work rate and teamwork, so I guess that'll help him out. It's good for a wingback. Not FC Dallas. Orlando City. Take a look at them next. Bunch of draft picks, some free players. Not a lot going on. Houston Dynamo sold a guy to Palermo for $155,000. Felipe Senderos, so get out of here. Philadelphia Union, likewise, draft picks, free transfers, nobody of any note. They had one pickup, Maximiliano Gonzalez, for $500,000 from Rosario Central. Take a look at this guy, 24-year-old Argentinian. Looks okay, deep-lying playmaker, nice mental abilities, decent technicals, decent physicals, so he should help him out in the midfield. So that's their big signing. Portland Timbers, again, a lot of draft picks. They picked up Nick Hagland from FC Dallas, so he's a good veteran for them. Some super draft players, some players from the free. They got a couple of transfers here. They picked up Machado from Gremelo. Take a look at this guy. Brazilian 22-year-old defensive midfielder. Looks pretty good. He's got good stats where it counts anyway. He's not overwhelming or anything, but he could be a nice rotational player for him, and that's what they got him for. Then they got, Luna. Uvaldo Luna. 24-year-old American. That's interesting. Where'd they get him from? Once Caldas. From Colombia. Interesting. So they went out, they got an American player from Colombia, and we saw him earlier. He's already got 3 goals for him, so look out. 24 years old. He looks okay. I don't know that he can score 3 goals a game for the rest of the season, but he's good enough to be first team. He's got a first team contract, so. All right, they sent somebody out on loan to the Timbers, Real Salt Lake. They picked up a couple of guys from waivers. Alex Mule from the Red Bull. Thomas McNamara from NYC FC. 27-year-old inside forward. He's okay. Only 10 pace. 15 long shots, though. That could be helpful from the inside forward position. Score some goals. A few draft picks here and there. They got their big move that we saw earlier, picking up Moreno for $3.1 million. So that's pretty decent offseason for them. San Jose sent a couple of guys out on loan. They've got a few draft picks. Travis Wara from DC United. Cody Cropper from New England. Cropper, goalkeeper, should help them. Nice, just average overall guy. He's going to be a rotational player for him, so not a starter. Picked up several draft picks. One guy from the U.S. Developmental Academy. A lot of times, those are like Generation Adidas type players. This is an 18-year-old. So, yeah, that was probably one of their top draft picks. He doesn't look that great. He's very fast, though. 16 pace, 16 acceleration, and he's only 18 years old. So those kind of players are pretty coveted from the MLS Super Draft because they're usually 2-3 years younger than any other player in the draft, so they got more time to develop. So that's good. Let's see. They got their big moves weren't very big. Picked up Saik from Sao Paulo for $84,000. Take a look at him. 19-year-old, so there's a bit of a youth movement here in San Jose. Nice pace, decision-making. So, yeah, he's a pretty decent guy for 19 years old. Nice crossing, dribbling, complete wingback. Again, with the wingbacks. They're everywhere. Let's see, a free transfer here. Solomon Kwambe, right defender. 15 first touch. That's really good. 24-year-old Nigerian. 15 pace and acceleration. So this guy is going to bomb up and down the field, almost like a wingback. Yes, he is a complete wingback. Look at this guy, 14 tackling. He's actually pretty good. Good job for the San Jose scouts picking him up. Then they finally got Juan Pablo Asegunda from Ticos. Take a look at this kid. Another wingback, an attacking wingback. I'm telling you, this is all the rage in Major League Soccer. 15 pace, 14 acceleration, dribbling, corners, first touch is okay, marking, tackling, okay. Interesting. Seattle, they picked up Jamie Castrillon from Toronto FC, 34-year-old Colombian, okay. From the Seattle Sounders, they picked up Andrew Dykstra on a free trade. They had some draft picks. Couple of transfers. Christian Mafla. Christian Mafla. I thought it was Mafia for a second there. 25-year-old Colombian. They got him for $115,000. He looks pretty good. Another wingback. I'm telling you, they're just everywhere. They're everywhere. We got to deal with it. And then, let's see, San Jose sent out, we saw this, sent Kashvili out. Josh Wynn, they picked up. In the draft, they got this is Sporting Kansas City. Okay, let's move on down. Sporting Kansas City, what did they do? Not a lot. Bunch of draft picks. and sent a guy out on loan. Anybody particularly wonderful in these draft picks? 23-year-old winger with 15 first touch. I guess that's okay. 16 first touch for this guy, defensive midfielder. So they went for guys with first touch, apparently. 13 first touch. This target man. Interesting. So they got, they're trying to get a little bit more technical over there in Sporting Kansas City. Maybe that works with what their coach tries to do. So I guess we'll see. Toronto FC, nothing but draft picks. They didn't need to do nothing, I guess. Vancouver is the final team. They picked up Kevin Kratz from Atlanta United. Drafty. So that's probably, again, waiver draft. There's our man, Yuka Raitala. They picked up from us, from Montreal. 29-year-old left defender. Pretty good physically. Long throws, really good. Everything else pretty good. He's a guy who probably could have helped us, but, they traded us. Is this the guy they traded us for? No. No, they picked him up on from the waiver draft. So we just let him go to make room for our super draft picks. Probably a mistake, but hey, what are you going to do? They picked up a few more super drafts, some free guys on a free. Leonardo picked up on a free. 30-year-old Brazilian, just sort of okay rotational player at defensive center back. Yeah, he can do a good job defensive center back. Then they spent $92,000 to Vasco da Gama for Andres Rios. 28-year-old Argentinian complete forward. Wow. Don't see many of these guys in MLS. It's actually very difficult to find a guy who can play complete forward, especially as his natural position. He's okay. He's just sort of all around, and I guess that's what you get from a complete forward. He's got some heading, which is pretty good. Everything else is just sort of 12s everywhere, so he'll be pretty good, I guess. Then their big move for $425,000 from Club Olimpo, Louis Villa, Argentinian. 16 first touch, 13 finishing, a poacher, 14 pace. So they really improved their strikers. Went out and got 2 strikers to help improve the attack over there in Vancouver. So we got to watch out for them scoring goals. All right, so that's it for the transfer moves. A lot of them, quite a few. Head coach movements. We can take a look at this real quick. Apparently nothing happened. That seems wrong, but what are you going to do? If they say there's no movement, then I guess there's no movement. The other things on this transfer list you can look at, just in case you're wondering, you can look at when the drafts take place. So the December waiver draft is the 18th of December. Re-entry stage 1 and stage 2. So these are the next upcoming drafts. So that can be helpful if you're going to plan your off-season. Allocation ranking. This tells you like when a player gets waived or somehow comes into the league or, is available to a major league team. This list tells you who's going to get the first crack at them. So LAFC gets the first crack. If they don't want them, Orlando City, and down the line to us in 10th place, Montreal, and then all the way down 23rd, Atlanta United. So it's based off of your performance last season. So you can, look at draft picks this way. So if you want to know whose draft pick to trade for LAFC, trade for Orlando, and you'll get the better draft picks. All right. Anything else? I don't think there's much else. We looked at, if you're wondering when the transfer window is, here it is. Gives you some of the moves. Maybe we should have just looked at this. Would have showed us a little bit more of a compact list of moves instead of showing everything. But you know what? We got a good look at everything. I mean, I guess I don't know what else to look at. We looked at the season preview. Do we need to go around the league and look at the stadiums? Hey, look at all the stadiums. There's Saputo Stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Gillette. Fun, hooray. No, I don't think so. I don't think we need to look at that stuff. You know what? Let's just sort of get to our game, maybe. I guess we should play a game this weekend. because we got some issues of our own to deal with. Now that we've looked at the entire league, we can get back to ourselves a little bit. It's going to be another long episode. Maybe we shouldn't play a game. Maybe we should just end it there and have this be a special MLS only game. That doesn't sound like a terrible idea, because then if I don't like this video, if I don't really want to post it because it's too long or too boring or too whatever, I can just save it. So maybe I'll do that. All right. I'll save this for next time, and we'll come back with a game and maybe a more exciting episode. So until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.